Welcome, everyone. Welcome once again for another exciting summer season here. It is me, Alex, along with Reef. Reef, how you doing today?
Doing well. I'm doing well. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Webinar Wednesday, as we like to call it around here.
Wednesday, which is very exciting. So we are going to be doing kind of a special showing, I would almost say today. Hey, Reef, what is our topic going to be?
Yeah, so it's gonna kind of segue from what we talked about last week about auditing your pipeline. We're gonna talk about different ways to initiate your HELOC. So we have direct links for our correspondent retail partners, and then we also have the inquiry tool that everybody has access to. So we're gonna focus a little bit more on the inquiry tool, but tell you when and where it makes sense and why you should really lean into the inquiry process.
That is absolutely correct. And that's something I really want to focus on too, is the fact that, right, we have these different partnership types. We keep these webinars, I wouldn't say generic, but we try to cater to everyone. One really big thing we do want to talk about really in this one is going to be that referral link. Maybe not everyone has access to that, depending on your partnership type. So that is something that you can check on, but it is something really important where we want to talk about because that's something where me and we see that a lot. We have a lot of conversations with loan officers about. On top of that, we do have some exciting new things I do want to announce later on. We have a new enhancement with restarting inquiries, as we were talking about. So I do want to show that. But there's also some really other exciting changes I do want to show, and just some cool things coming up that I'm honestly pretty excited about. I've been saying this over and over again, but this really is kind of the year of change when it comes to this product, right? And that's all because very specifically of your feedback, right? From loan officers, from all of the admins out there, right? We hear it from you. So to me, this is a really important time to just be joining on with this product if you haven't already, or if you've used it previously, right? Again, just attending, listening to these, hearing about this kind of stuff. So got all the exciting stuff for you. And of course, we are going to do Q&A, which is always a lot of fun. So if you do have questions, there is going to be that question section there at the bottom. Now, a couple of housekeeping items. First and foremost, right, this is being recorded, as well as we are going to be getting out an email after the fact, and the recording is going to be posted to our YouTube channel. So if you have not subscribed already to our YouTube, right, subscribe, like that bell, all that fun stuff. So with all that said and done here, Reef, I gotta set this LinkedIn Live. I don't know what's going on here. So let's go ahead and kick this off. Reef, what are we talking about first?
Yeah, so let's just talk about, and I'll put the YouTube URL in the chat for folks that want it or need it. You can also watch all our previous webinars as well. But for today, let's talk about how to initiate the HELOC, right? You guys are going to have two options depending on the partnership channel and the type you have. So direct link, let's start there. A lot of people like the direct link because for lack of better terms, it's really easy to do. It's really simple. You just send out a link, somebody clicks the link, and they start the application process. It gets tied to your name. It pops up into your CRM within our lead portal. You'll see it in the pipeline view, and then you get paid, right? Somebody clicks a link, essentially drives their application, and you get paid. Who wouldn't like that, right? But I'm going to tell you how that doesn't make sense for folks that you have a relationship with, that you've spoken to in the past, or you have information on, right? So instead of taking, the 3 seconds to send out a link, I'm going to kind of push you guys to take the 30 seconds or a minute to do the inquiry. And we'll talk about why that makes much more sense in a minute. But the direct link, it does have its use cases. And it is actually very powerful. We've seen branches, 10x their volume using the direct link because they use it with referral partners. They use it on social media posts. They've generated QR codes. They've made graphics that are attached to links. They've gotten very creative. I mean, even the referral partners that they have, they've been able to integrate their own link onto their websites. So somebody's on a pool company's website trying to look for a new pool, and they see a button where they can click to see if they can get pre-qualified with a home equity line, all right, to pay for that pool. A lot of folks have gotten, generating plenty of leads that way, and they've seen, significant increase. So I think it has a use case, and it's very powerful in terms of getting new clients. But you'll want to kind of watch what we talked about last time about auditing your pipeline, auditing the people that have clicked that link and started because let's say they didn't get offers or they didn't get offered enough money, for example, or maybe their rate wasn't as great as you expected it to be. Maybe, oh, excuse me, maybe it's a good idea to take a peek at that, Did the borrower put in information correctly? 100% from top to bottom. You all know, you guys are in the mortgage industry. The borrowers a lot of times are not putting in information the right way. So you can go in, go look at the details of that file, and then if it doesn't make sense, or maybe they put monthly income instead of annual income, or they probably didn't use spousal income, or whatever the case is, maybe they put in the wrong address. You could edit that and modify that and then start an inquiry, right? You'll have their phone number, you'll have the borrower information, you can give them a call, and then you could submit an inquiry. So it's a great way to increase your clientele, increase your book of business, increase your volume, increase your revenue, all those good things. I think the direct link shines there. But in terms of efficiency, making sure you're getting your deals as quickly as you can close as quickly as you can reduce friction, frustrations on your borrower side, and time, right? We all care about time. You're going to reduce the amount of time that you're in these deals is by using the inquiry tool. That's where you're going to really want to live. And awesome is that everyone has access to that, regardless of your partnership type.
Now, I want to take a step back here. I want to focus on something Reef said, right? Of the fact that, maybe you go to a AC repair place, right? Maybe go to a pool place and you're having a conversation and you go, yep, Alex really wants a jacuzzi in his new house. Even though it is summer, it is coming up on winter. But unfortunately, Alex is very, very poor. So I see on the flyer on the ground where it says, hey, you can get a HELOC. Scan this QR code right here, right? That is not going to be at that pool slash jacuzzi slash AC place. That is going to be specifically right from a loan officer, reaching out their community, talking to small businesses around them, maybe larger businesses, right, who has probably made a flyer, putting that QR code down. And what I can do, right, as a fun little borrower is I can scan that QR code. And then what it's going to do is it's going to have me start an application right then and there, right? Using the online automated HELOC we all know and love under that loan officer's name. Now, if I go through, I get offers. Well, great. I can on the phone right there, see offers in a minute or two. And then I can go, oh my gosh, right? I can go ahead and take out 100 grand. Well, maybe not 100 grand for a jacuzzi, but that means I can take out enough money to get that jacuzzi there. So then I can start having a conversation, right? I'm already in person talking to that jacuzzi guy saying, hey, let's get this jacuzzi, right? I've pre-qualified for this. I'll go through the app, let's start talking about this. And then suddenly that loan officer is going to get an email alert saying, hey, someone has applied, right? And they're looking at that and they go, I have no idea who that is. So suddenly they're reaching out, and maybe it's a HELOC today, maybe it's a refi or a purchase down the road, right? Maybe rates go down. Maybe it's this, that, or the other thing. So suddenly you're building your client database. That to me, that whole scenario I'm talking about is where the power of the referral link is. But I also want to go back to what Reef was talking about earlier. This is a real statistic, and we bring this up all the time, right? We track this data very closely. It's about a 50% higher conversion rate on the inquiry. Now, why do you think that is? It's because you're the loan officer filling in that initial information. You've joined these webinars, so of course you know to include spousal income. You know of common pitfalls and things to look for, as well as ways to prepare your borrower, and you're filling in that initial information to see what offers are available. So that is something I think is very important, right? With your existing client database, I see it time and time again where what loan officers do is their borrower calls them up, says, hey, I need money, let's talk about a HELOC. And they go, great, here's my link, go apply. And then the borrower goes to apply and they put in wrong information, or they forget to include spousal income, right? Or, one thing or another, and they're not getting offers. Or what can happen is again, this is the year of enhancements. We've added on so many features to the inquiry that the borrower does not have access to. Manual lien matching, multiple properties, right? They could get to an asset depletion screen, but they may not understand it like you do. So I see that time and time again where I'm monitoring pipelines for our retail partners with these links. And I notice, there's loan officers just sending off the links and borrowers are not getting offers when they probably could have, right? So this is something that, again, take the power in your hands, do the inquiry, because it literally only takes a minute or two, right? You cannot make it quicker, we've tried. And again, that's where the power is. Whereas where the referral link lives, this is where it comes in with things like our marketing toolkit, right? Maybe your own internal marketing team has made great content for this, right? QR code is just one way. Email signature may be another, right? Maybe it's your website. Maybe it's social posts like LinkedIn, right? There's so many different ways you can use a referral link to build your business. And again, it's not necessarily about HELOC, right? This is a product It's quick, it's easy, it's going to make your borrower happy, but this is a borrower that you can then retain for a long time, helping them with further things down the road. I will say this in every webinar forever, and I think Reef would agree, to me, databases are king, right? Even if they don't get offers, well, you're still getting someone in your database. You're still finding a new client you can reach out to. Hey, I saw you applied for this HELOC, right? My name is, Alex, right? I'm a loan officer. You scanned the QR code at the jacuzzi place, right? Metaphor's getting a little bit mixed here, but you see my point. It's saying, hey, let's talk about other options maybe available to you if you really want that jacuzzi, home improvement, debt consolidation, whatever it may be. So these are just powerful tools. And again, being proactive, that to me is the most important thing, right? That is how you drive your business.
For sure. And let's talk about some hesitations because we are talking to LOs all the time, and some of them are hesitant, right? They don't want to necessarily do an inquiry because they don't want to pull soft credit. They don't want their clients to have leads triggered, and then their clients get a bunch of phone calls getting there, right? So a lot of them are hesitant. They want rate sheets. They want to be able to kind of be able to tell their client what the rate is before they even do any kind of paperwork. Well, here's the thing. One, we do not trigger leads. We don't sell your customers information or data. You're not going to have your customers reach back out to you and say, hey, Alex, I thought you were just checking my offers. Why do I have 300 lenders calling me? You're not going to have that conversation, right? It's very protected. Number two, it's a soft credit pull. There is no impact to the credit profile or the credit score of your borrower. Okay, it's a true internal price check, but it's very accurate. Another thing you want to think about on top of that is the speed. Like, how long is it going to take me to find this? You can go pull somebody's credit, right? And credit profile. You can start looking through their debts and their history. You can do those things for sure, but that takes you time, right? And it's probably going to cost you some money. You're probably going to have to pay for that. Our system will do it for you, and we don't charge you for it. And it takes you about 30 seconds or a minute to do that. So why pull somebody's credit? Why start doing due diligence work? Why not just submit their information accurately and correctly in the lead portal and see what the system gives you? Maybe it gives you exactly what you're looking for, and then you don't need to do any other work, right? Maybe it doesn't give you what you're looking for. Maybe maybe there's no offers for your client. Maybe that's the case. Well, then you can go pull their credit. You can go more of a traditional route. You can find a product that has, manual underwrite, and you can go along that path. But this is the first look, great place to start. Even if somebody's a candidate for a cash out refi, or you're just thinking about doing, like a HELOC or a HELOan, whatever the case is, it's a great place to start first. It's very quick.
Now, I will say something that you're only going to hear from Alex on a webinar is we are talking about a calculator. We are talking about things outside of the inquiry tool that allow you to look at that. And again, to me, the big thing here is going to be the fact that the inquiry tool is going to take out the guesswork. The big power of this is that it's just off credit. It doesn't trigger any leads. I want to stress that. And again, you're going to see that right away. Though we are having these conversations, right? We've seen these kind of feedback. Again, we live off your feedback. So we are having discussions about things like calculators, right? Ways we can kind of build out these features, get that more information ahead of you, so on and so forth. But again, please just keep in mind, right? With something like the inquiry tool, you're going to see immediately what offers are available down to their individual rate, everything already considered in. So you can accurately tell them what kind of offers are available, what kind of fees apply, what kind of this and that. There's not going to be any manual calculation or guesswork. So suddenly they, start an application and things change. So just keep that all in mind, right? We do hear you, but to me, the inquiry tool is a powerful way. Now, I do want to talk about this, right? Just a little bit. Let me get my thoughts together just a little bit, I guess, I suppose. But the big thing here is going to be the fact that, again, if you have a referral link, let's talk about how that works. Let's kind of show you that. I'm going to share my screen here very quickly, and I do want to mention one thing, and I've mentioned this before, but I do want to mention it again, right? So if you have a referral link, if you're one of our correspondent partners, there at the top right is going to be a copy referral link option. That is going to allow you, again, to copy this. However, if you would like to, and you hit the Create New button, well, you're going to see the option where it says HELOC application. That allows you to directly send a borrower a link via email to start. This to me is optional in the strongest. The biggest thing here is going to be the fact that, again, with a referral link, what you can do is you just compose your own email in my mind. But this is giving you the second ability to just put in their name, email, the rest is optional, and just submit them over an email. It's pretty, automated email, have your name on there, so on and so forth. But to reiterate our points, this is the strength here, right? This is the fact that, again, what's going to happen is when the borrower goes to start, well, they have to fill in that initial information. This is just one part of, many pages. I won't show you it all, but it's all that information on that first part of the inquiry. What will happen is if they do not get offers, it will be an adverse action notice, which is different than our inquiry tool. So they're going to get this decline, right? They're going to get adverse action notice. It could be a feel bad moment for them. Probably it's going to be a feel bad moment, as well as they're going to know ahead of you. On top of that, if they do get offers, they're going to know ahead of you. So suddenly they're going to be calling you up because there will be a contact card on the right-hand side. Can't see it because I'm in a little demo tool, right? But it'll have your information. They'll be calling you up and being like, hey, I qualified. What about this? What about that? You can pull it up in Lead Portal. Hey, give me a minute. Let me look this up. But to me, again, being proactive instead of reactive, right? So again, referral link, big thing here. Just to reiterate our points, and then I think we can kind of show some new stuff. But referral link is going to be for new clients, people you don't know, all sorts of fun stuff for marketing. And the inquiry tool, use that where you can, please. It's something that takes, again, just a minute of your time to fill in a page, and you're going to know if the HELOC works. And if it doesn't, okay, move on to another strategy. Simple as that.
For sure. And the difference between submitting a lead in the lead portal, like how Alex just showed you guys, versus just sending out your link, is you get to enter in the email and the first and last name, basically. That's about the difference. So there's not really too much more control you're going to have, right? If somebody clicks the direct link and their name is, Alexander, but they put Alex, for example, well, we're going to have to cancel reapply that because we don't have a way to modify and change that. So yeah, maybe you get a little bit more control because you can ensure that the name is correct, right? They're using their legal name when you send that lead out. But in reality, that direct link should really be used to get new clients, right? Just to attract new folks. And then you can audit those pipelines, have conversations with them, establish a relationship, and then do an inquiry with probably the correct information. Right? More often than not, there's going to be something that the borrower put in that is not correct. So you'll want to restart that direct link file anyway, most of the time, to submit the inquiry to make sure everything is correct and they're getting the true offers they're getting, and also the best rates that they can possibly get. And we had an anonymous attendee ask, how do we make sure the rate is competitive? Well, the number one way you can make sure it's competitive is that you're putting in the information correctly, right? If their DTI is really high or their CLTV is incorrect or whatever the case is, then yeah, their rate, it might not be as competitive as it could be. So, or they might not be getting offered as much money as they probably should be. Those are all issues that usually are tied to the borrowers entering their information first. So you can mitigate a lot of that issue and you can save yourself a lot of headache and time by essentially doing that first part for them. And we'll show you guys here in a minute what that first page looks like, but it's very generic information, right? You don't need a social the vast majority of the time. You're going to need a little bit of info, and essentially that's it. And you can do an internal price check. You don't even have to disclose to the borrower what offers or rates came back. Maybe they're not that great. Maybe they got declined. Maybe they got no offers. You don't even have to tell them those details. You can go about it in a way where you control the narrative. You say, you know what, this HELOC isn't going to really work. I don't like the rates that came back. I don't like the offer that came back. Or you didn't really get any offers because of this delinquency or this late payment or whatever the scenario that calls for. You can control that and then you can pivot them accordingly. You don't just have to go send them out to your credit unions or your banks or your referral partners because you might not get them back. And Alex mentioned this earlier, right? Data is king. So if you can help with a solution today, well, when rates go down, hopefully in September, fingers crossed, right? If rates do go back down and they go back down significantly, maybe they're your candidate for a refi, right? Like, and then you can maybe pivot them into a purchase in the future. Like, those are the ways you kind of want to think about this HELOC, not just that the product is great, it's awesome, but not just that you're being a HELOC person or you're, submitting HELOCs, but this could really be an avenue and a gateway to get them, to be a client for life. And then, word of mouth is incredible. You help me out with something, Alex? Well, guess what? I'm going to tell my wife. I'm going to tell my friends. I'm going to say, hey, if you guys need something, I got my boy Alex who helped me out with a HELOC. Then he helped me with a refi. Please reach out to him. It was a very easy, smooth process. So that's kind of the way you want to think about it mentally and how you want to approach our product and process.
Client for life. See, that's what we're solving for here, right? Then you don't have to send them to a credit union because you don't know if they're going to get them back. So the big thing here, hey, do the inquiry where possible. If not, referral link. A lot of you maybe just have the inquiry. That's good news, trust me. Hey, here's the fun thing. I want to show you all a whole bunch of brand new stuff. I want to tease what's coming in the future. I want to kind of break some things and let's have some fun with it here in this webinar, right? This is just between you, me, and Reef. So I'm going to be showing a test website. Don't look at the names or numbers too closely, as well as, hey, something may break. That's the fun of it all. But here's the fun thing, right? We are constantly improving. We are constantly getting that feedback. So I want to show you a couple things. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. First and foremost, I am currently leading the charge on a brand new enhancement that should be going live, I'm hoping by next week, if Alex can keep his promises. There is going to be a brand new resource center directly on the lead portal. That resource center is going to have all our resources built in. So to reiterate, I will send an email to you all with all of our resources. It's going to have demo videos, documents, everything created by old Alex here to make your life easy. However, I wanted these to live in the lead portal. I wanted them to be at your fingertips, constantly updated, so you don't have to refer back to a Google Drive as well as some partners. Google doesn't work. That's fine. So this is something where, again, hopefully I'm shooting for next Wednesday, but we'll see. A lot of work on my plate here. So just give me a little bit of patience and that should be going live here soon. So you'll see that when it comes in. These are going to be some great resources for you. You're going to be able to see things, including things like demo videos. You're going to see full documentation with updates. So you can check in here. So if you have a question on the HELOC product, right? No longer you have to go to a Google Drive, download a PDF, do this or that. We can just click on the HELOC product guide. It'll pop up, boom, you're good to go. Now, I do want to show you a new feature that is live currently, and this is based on feedback from you all. So we are going to go into my pipeline here. Let's take, for example, this HELOC right here that I've done. It's a HELOC inquiry, it's incomplete. Oh well. One big thing is, let's say, for example, I put in the wrong information, right? I click on this action menu, I can resume it, but I'm like, oh, I messed up their income, or maybe I spelt their name wrong, whatever it may be. I can go into the details of this file, right? It's going to show me everything. So I can look at that and be like, I completely messed up their income, or maybe I spelt his last name wrong. That is just some random gibberish. Before in the past, what you'd have to do is you'd have to cancel the entire inquiry, make a brand new one, right? That takes some extra time, and we've heard your feedback. So what you can do now is if you go into the more options over here, you are going to have the ability, of course, to cancel, but to restart the inquiry. What this is going to do is it's going to hold over that same information that allows you to then go ahead and do it. Just notice with this pop-up, I want to make it clear, it is going to be a new soft credit pull. And it's going to be an updated AVM, right? So we cannot guarantee the same offers because, right, that's not what the point of this is, right? That's not what you're looking for. What you're looking for here is to make some corrections. Very simple. If I want to restart it, I just go, okay, I want to restart it. Boom, it's going to go ahead, pop up that first page of the inquiry, and it's going to pre-fill all the information I already filled in. So in this case, I can look at this and go, oh, actually, you know what? The property wasn't listed. I was wrong about that. I can just go ahead and change that. Great. It's going to rerun that underwriting. Oh, you know what? The income actually is 100,000. Let's put it that way. So on and so forth, right? And now it's a quick way to quickly restart in case there's any issues. I want to be clear about this. If it is an application, the borrower still has to call or chat into our customer support line and request a cancellation. There's a lot of compliance and rules and all the boring stuff around that. And basically, they have to be the one that requests it. But just know with the inquiry, you have full control. So just keep that in mind. That is here for you. And again, to go back to our previous point, right? When it comes to the inquiry, right? This is something where you're filling in this information for the borrower. So this is the same information they start an application with, but you as the LO will know, of course, to include spousal income where you can. You'll know what kind of questions to ask for other income, right? This is the type of thing to put in when it comes to things like occupancy type, primary, secondary investment, so on and so forth. So once you hit continue, confirms the information on this new restarted inquiry. Well, it's going to again be a new soft credit pull, updated AVM, and it's going to rerun through our AEOS based on this information. So just saves you a little bit of time. Don't you worry. Now, on top of that, we're going to be adding on a lot more to this HELOC product. There is a whole bunch coming out in the works that personally I am very excited about here. Look at that. They got all some little offers. Only $40,000. Man, I need to make more money. That's what needs to happen. All right, so let's talk about what else is coming in the future, right? We are working on a DSCR product. This DSCR product is pretty amazing to me. It's so amazing, in fact, that we might start backporting some features into the HELOC. So I don't want to spoil too much, right? Because there are future webinars I still want you to register for. But keep in mind, as we are building out these features, well, it's going to go into the system. For example, I'll give you a little teaser here. We are going to make it easier for self-employed and business individuals to verify their income. Historically, in the past, we have not done things like business checking accounts, right? We have not done things when it comes to LLCs. So this is something where, don't hold me at my word, I am on a recording, but we are building out, again, features backported into the HELOC to make this easier on your borrower. So not live yet, but again, stay tuned for webinar after webinar as we show you brand new features that come into play, because there is a lot of work our engineers are going into for Q3 and Q4 that are going to make your lives easier, and you can allow this for more borrowers. Personally, I'm pretty excited about it. To be honest with you, a couple of changes I've seen. I won't spoil anything, but I went, wow, I didn't even know we could do this after 5 years of working here. So it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting. Reef is excited. I know he is. Look at him.
I am. That's one of the biggest call outs that we get from our partners is, well, this is not very self-employed friendly, right? And well, self-employed borrowers don't use personal bank accounts. They use business bank accounts intuitively, of course. And I haven't been able to provide a solution, and we neither of us have, right? And that's one of the limitations of our product. Please pivot them accordingly. Well, hopefully soon we're going to be able to help you guys solve that for your self-employed borrowers. And I think that would be a huge lift, right? And this kind of goes on the back of the fact that a lot of these changes that have occurred this year and previous years and will continue to happen are driven from the feedback we get from our partners. So you guys keep that feedback coming. We're going to work to just refine and make things easier for you, and also help increase, probability of conversion and offers for your clients. So that's just a good way to know that your guys' words aren't falling on deaf ears. We are listening and we are making updates, which is incredible that Figyre does that, right? So keep those things coming. I will touch on the inquiry tool a little bit because there are a couple questions on just kind of understanding the rationale behind it. So the direct link, right? If you're using that, your borrower is doing the application from start to finish. If they put in information incorrectly, the system doesn't know that. It's going to judge them on the information entered, right? The offers are as good as the data that is typed in, right? We don't have underwriters, fully automated system. So you can imagine how that would make sense. So that is the process there. Really simple, straightforward, intuitive. With the inquiry tool, think of it as like almost a sneak peek into the offers before you send it to your clients. So you as the LO gets to see everything first. And if you like what you see, you can make your selection, sign your name, and then it will send the link out to your borrower to get started, which is almost like the direct link in a way, except you get to see if there's offers or not. And if there are offers, you get to make the selections for them to get them started, and then they would drive, right? So you're kind of warming up the car, you're gassing up, you make sure the car's got gas in it, and then you pass it over to them versus just having them go to a dealership and pick a car and drive it. So think of it that way. Now, when they do get the link, they'll drive and they'll go about it that way. They'll verify their income, they'll close, all that good stuff. Everything is based off of soft credit until income is verified. So there is no harm, no foul to your clients for them to try to qualify. So you can feel safe and secure that there's not going to be like a bait and switch type thing where, we pull their hard credit as quick as we can and then we don't let them close. Like the vast majority of the files that you'll see, the bottleneck is that income verification. Once people verify their income, a hard credit gets pulled and it confirms their offers, they're essentially going to be reading and signing their electronic disclosures, and then they're at close. They're streamlined to close. So that is the big hurdle. Once they pass that, we pull hard credit, it confirms it, they close. If they exhaust all the income verification options, which doesn't take very long for them to get to that page, by the way, from when they click your link, about 5-10 minutes probably. If they exhaust all the options and they're unable to verify income, that's okay. Everything's off a soft credit pull. So go ahead and use the other tools you have at your disposal and give them a different solution. That is the value proposition that our company presents to you. It's not that it's going to work for 100% of your clients. It's that you can get an answer very quickly, and it's a really a no harm, no foul process for your clients to try to verify their income and qualify for the loan. So that's the way you want to think about the inquiry tool.
I like that. That's very powerful. Maybe I'll clip that. We'll see. We'll put that on YouTube. I like that.
We had a question about spouses and being used for income and joint applications. You want to touch on that a little bit, Alex?
Oh, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. So, very clearly, right? No co-borrowers. Bring this up in all my trainings. I just want to make that clear, right? No co-borrowers with this product specifically. Now, with that in mind, in community property and homestead states, we can include the spouse's income. The power here is that if we are including the spouse's income, we do not pull credit for the spouse, meaning we do not look at their liabilities. So this is something to me that is really important. Again, here's my example, right? I want to take this back, right? A little bit to what Reef was talking about. I want to take this back, right? If you use the inquiry tool, you're learning this stuff in this webinar. You're understanding this. I could talk about this for hours. It's like having the calculator in your hands. You're doing, the borrower comes to you and says, hey, I need to get money. And you're going, okay, let me help you out. Let me do the calculations. The referral link, right, is you just handing them a calculator and saying, all right, you do it. All right, let me know if you have questions, right? That's not what you do as a loan officer. So again, this is something where it's really important to understand this kind of information because this is where I see the miss all the time. In community property and homestead states, you can include the spouse. That's most of them. I'll send out the documentation. You can look over that full list. I'm sure we can probably post in the chat at some point. But the important thing here, right? California, Texas, Florida, whatever states, Nevada here, right? Where we include that, we do not pull liabilities for the spouse. They can link up their online accounts, joint checking, joint taxes. They can upload pay stubs, right? They can connect online accounts. So this is a really good way to get people to qualify. And what you're going to see is borrowers miss that. They miss that call out. They do not understand it when it comes to total household. Or it could be a situation, right, where they're looking at that total annual income, thinking it is household, including, grandkids, a grandpa, whatever it is, and they're including the wrong amounts. So then when they get to income verification, they're calling up our support and we have to tell them, hey, you can't link up grandpa's checking account. That's not the way it works, right? So these are important things to consider and understand. So when you're helping your borrower, you can sit down and have a conversation. Okay, great. What's the property in? Oh, it's in California? Fantastic. We can include your spouse's income. Do you have a spouse? Would you like to include them? Their credit's not pulled. Keep in mind, right, in those states, the spouse will still have to acknowledge the lien by signing a notary, but their credit won't be infected. We're not pulling your credit. We're not doing anything. They just acknowledge the lien. It's just a signing. I'm sure you're used to this kind of stuff with other products, but always keep that in mind. Leverage spousal income where you can. Gross income, right? That's the big thing I see. Another really big thing I see is that this is annual income. I see a lot of loan officers put in monthly. They don't get offers because the DTI is like, say, 700%. And then they move on. And then suddenly I'm emailing them being like, hey, you can redo this, right? You can get offers based on this. So some things to just really consider here. Again, leverage spousal income where you can. That's Alex's golden tip and something I say in every training, and I will keep repeating until probably I die. All right, Reef, what other questions we got?
That's fair. So Sophia was asking kind of about needing better updates and maybe a little more transparency. Some clients need hand holding, which is we understand that, especially some of the newer updates that we do. Maybe it's a little bit more sophisticated, and some of the clients need a little bit more assistance there. That's completely fair. And is there ways that we can kind of help with that?
Oh, Sophia, I'm so glad you asked this question. That makes my heart sing. Because this is something that I've been really, really pushing for with our engineering and our product team, right? Because you're 100% correct. There are times, and this is Alex's personal opinion, not Figyre's. I want you to know, Alex's personal opinion, there are times where you as a loan officer are a little bit in the dark. Reason being is because to me, there are times where there's a lack of information. Let's put it that way. To me, as a trainer, information is king. And I'll show you what I'm talking about here and going into Sophia's question. First and foremost, I'll answer it pretty bluntly. Yes, we are making some good enhancements here pretty soon that will help out with that kind of stuff. But let's say, for example, here, right, I have this test application. It's in provide more information. Now, if I click on the three dots, I go into the details, it's going to show me the details of the file. Couple things. First and foremost, we just added date and timestamps. This is about a month ago now. I think my timing's a little bit off. I've been in, here and there mentally, but we can see very specifically the updates, right? Now, you're going to receive emails as loan originators. We've been adding on a couple more. But what I really want to cover with you, these are high-level milestones. These do not cover everything, right? So what I mean by that, I'll get questions, is the big one is going to be note signing. LOs ask me all the time, what does note signing mean? I'm confused on note signing, right? And to me, that is so fair of a question because if you're just looking at that note signing stage, right, there's so much that can happen here because between identity verification and note signing, the borrower picks their final offer, right? There could be a manual appraisal, it could be a BPO, it could be stopped because we need a document like a marriage certificate or some sort of condition placed on the file, right? So you'll see where it's stopped at note signing, and there could be many different scenarios on why it stopped here. So I want to make this clear. A couple things. Number one, yes, we are going to be making enhancements more and more to add more information in here. But here's my big tip for today. Right now, you can take this back. This, again, is high level. This status up here is the actual where it's at, what it means, what is going on. So this is going to tell you what is happening. Now, what does that mean for you? Well, that is one of the things that I am adding in. So I am adding in this resource center of all my fun little documents I've made and those demo videos and so on and so forth. So you can go to the resource center, you can go to the HELOC resources if you don't know what that status means, and then we can go to HELOC app stages. And it will tell you every singular granular little detail about it coming down to screenshots and information. And I'll probably add more on that over time now that it's in Lead Portal. But just keep that in mind, right? Depending on the situation, don't necessarily look at what's happening over here. Look at what the status is up top. For a lot of you, there's also support phone numbers you can call with questions, and our operations team are fantastic. They can help you out and give you information on that. Path of least resistance is the borrower calling or chatting in. I recommend chat feature. It is very, very quick. But hey, here's a fun thing, and this is a little teaser from Alex. We'll share this at a future point. We are adding chat for you all. So I'm not going to give you an ETA. I'm not going to say too much on that. But we are hearing you, right? And we want to keep expanding out our support options for the loan officer. So Lead Portal will get more and more built in. So I promise you, we are hearing the feedback and we're making it better. But it is something that today I would say, again, refer to those documents, right? I spent time on them. I'm proud of them. Give me feedback on them, honestly. But it is something, again, next week, hopefully we'll get those in there. And then from there, chat functions, new status definitions, all sorts of fun things we're going to be putting in. I also want the funding date in there. That's more of a sidebar. Don't listen to me. But a lot of this needs to come out in big updates. So we're kind of compiling everything for big updates that go in each quarter.
Yep, I agree. And the funding date I think would be excellent. A lot of partners ask about that to see when they can expect compensation to be paid. So I think that's a great enhancement.
Mm-hmm.
Offer that at some point. Still a little bit of confusion. I see a couple questions about the inquiry versus direct link. So direct link sends your borrower a link, right? And they drive everything. So they would be putting in their name, their income, all that stuff. You're not doing any of those things. So the inquiry tool allows you to put in a little bit of information on one page of a process, and then you would see the offers and rates. If you, the LO, likes what you see and you want to send it to your client, you're going to make preliminary selections for them. They're not set in stone. Your borrowers can change their offers later, but you'll make some selections and then you'll sign your name. Once you sign your name, you're going to click submit or proceed, and that then would send an email to your client to get started. So it's kind of like a buffer before the direct link, right? Because you still get a link sent out with the inquiry, but that's only if you want to send it out. And you make the selection, sign your name, click proceed, then it sends it. So until that happens, right, everything stays in house. So until you make those selections and sign your name, those offers and rates are only visible to you, the LO. So no one knows about it. That's the real big difference, right, between those two things. DSCR, we have a question about DSCR. So Anna, I'll take this one. Just so you know, as a company on our retail website, we do offer DSCR to retail borrowers. You're not going to get compensated on that. It's not a partnership thing. This would just be for retail clients. So it depends if your company is currently offering DSCR. DSCR is piloted with a few companies at the moment, a few partners. So if you guys have access to it, awesome. Then you can definitely help them with that. Shoot us an email at salessuccess@Figyre. We'll let you know if your company has that access. If they do not, and you just want to provide a solution for them, you can, kind of steer them into the Figyre.com retail side. Just keep in mind that's not where you want your clients to go in general, because you're not going to get compensated. There's no LOs in that channel. It's a full retail shop. Most of the time, we're using that space for proof of concept. So a lot of times we'll do launches of some products there to make sure everything works well before we start offering it to our partnership channels. So just think of it that way. Selena is asking, what if a borrower is on fixed income, a second person on title is a family member? What would she do there?
So this one I've been thinking about a little bit here. Very specifically, right, I would recommend running the inquiry. I've helped a lot of borrowers in the past in kind of similar situations. One thing we usually don't mention, right, is the manual doc upload procedure. Meaning, right, in income verification, we do have two options for uploading actual physical documents. That's going to be their pay stubs or award letters. So there have been times in the past where I've helped borrowers who have like Social Security award letters, where they only have a set number of income. They're only looking for a low amount, like 30,000, let's say. So we can go in there, we can do the inquiry, whatever that fixed income amount is, right? You can put that in, and then we're going to run through that AUS to do the DTI calculation, so on and so forth. So you can see what offers are available. However, keep in mind, right? Second person on title is a family member. Unless it's a spouse, we're not going to include them in any way. If they're on title, they're going to sign notary, right? Acknowledging a lien's being placed there, but no co-borrowers. So if that fixed income is an amount, this is just not the product for them. And I'm going to be blunt about that, right? So to me, it's run an inquiry. You're going to know right away, does it work? If no offers are available, and it's because, it's a situation like that when it comes to income, well, then maybe look for another strategy, maybe another product out there that can include that family member, something of that nature. Just keep in mind, no co-borrowers.
100%. That could change in the future. You never know, right? Enough people ask for it, we might make that update and change. But as of today, we do not offer that. What docs are needed if they ask? So I'll take this one. Generally speaking, if you're a W-2 employee, like if you have W-2 clients, the vast majority of them, I'd say probably north of 60-70% of them, the only doc they're going to be uploading is a picture of their ID when prompted. That's it.
Mhm.
Not a full doc by any stretch, right? So think of it like that. The more complicated somebody's income becomes, like let's say they're self-employed or they have a side hustle plus a W-2, whatever the case is, like the more complicated a borrower's situation is, there may be more documents asked for. There's misalignments. Let's say name on title is different than name on ID. That could maybe create a little bit of an issue in terms of like they might have to provide a document showing how their name changed. Think like marriage certificate, divorce decree, naturalization, whatever the case is. So it could, increase the amount. Maybe it's a trust owned property. We're going to need a certificate of trust in that point. But like I said, the vast majority of your W-2 folks will not need documents really in a traditional sense. They're going to be verifying their income electronically. They're going to be reading their disclosures electronically. They're going to be, typing in their bank account information for disbursement electronically. A lot of those things are going to happen in the application flow. So you don't really need docs. And it is sometimes it's a shock, right? I've had conversations with LOs that tell me we didn't upload anything and you guys approved them. Well, yeah, that's what we're trying to do. That's our goal actually. So another individual is asking, we still have issues with name variations, especially for Hispanic borrowers. Any tips on how to make this process smoother to correct?
This is very simple. Alex's golden rule, and he lives by this. Alex's golden rule is that the name on the application needs to match the ID that they're using for verification. right? So if you're doing an inquiry, when it asks for borrower name, make sure that it includes everything that it would on their ID, say like a driver's license. So if they have a double last name, hyphenated last name, suffix, whatever it may be, make sure it's on there. Everything else, we can do an AKA, right? We can verify, using some sort of documentation. The important thing is that the name on the application match what we're trying to verify with that verification process. So have a conversation with them. If you're uncertain, right? Tell them, I've asked borrowers that before, right? There is an identity verification. Do you have a driver's license? Do you have a passport, state ID? Like, how would you like to verify this? Great. What does it say on there specifically? Or even like, hey, can you just send me a photo of that real quick? I want to make sure I have that correct, right? So just ways to help out initially, because you are correct. We have been making changes on the back end for a smoother process when it comes to these kind of things, right? We in the old days had to cancel when it came to ownership type, issues. Now we can correct them, so on and so forth. When it comes to the name, there's a lot that we can do, but a lot of the times it's still we'll have to cancel and have them start a new app. So just keep that in mind. Name on inquiry or the application if they start with a referral link needs to match their ID. And that's another thing. If you use the referral link, here's what's going to happen. Well, Thomas is going to apply under Tom. And then we're going to call him at the 11th hour and be like, hey, that does not match on title, doesn't match on your ID. What's happening? Like, we're going to need to redo all this. And he goes, well, I go by Tom. And we tell him, no, this needs to be the legal name. So keep that in mind. Make sure you set the expectation with the borrower.
For sure. And something that you might want to think about is, let's say their driver's license and their passport have two different names on it, right? That happens. I've had those conversations. Pick whichever one you're going to use, right? They both have to be valid. Whatever ID you're using has to be valid, not expired and current. So if you want to use the driver's license, use the driver's license. If you want to use the state ID, use the state ID. You want to use the passport, use the passport. If you want to use the permanent res card, use that. And then just ensure, like Alex said, the application verbatim matches whatever legal ID you're using. If name is different on title, that's okay. We can make internal AKAs for that. That's not a big deal. That's not going to have to restart the process. But if the ID and the app are not the same, that's when we have to restart and essentially cancel and reapply. So that's the easiest way to do it. You can just ask your borrower, hey, can you shoot me a picture of your ID? I'm about to do this inquiry for you. I just want to make sure I get your name perfect. Easy way to do that, right? Because even a one letter misspell is an issue because one, we don't have underwriters. We don't have ways to change this information. And number, like the biggest thing is that all the disclosures and loan docs generate off of the information you typed in. So that one letter mistake is on all the documentation. So that is the rationale behind that. We are asking for some clarification, which I think Alex can provide really well here. If there are two homeowners, but they are not married to each other, only one of them can apply.
Yes. So to be clear about this, there is a single primary borrower. Now, here's some strategy around this, right? If they're both on title, well, if you have permission for a soft credit pull from both, you could do an inquiry for both. You can see who gets better offers. Just keep in mind for income verification, only the spouse can be included in there. So let's think of an example. Let's talk about Nevada. I'm in the great state of Nevada. Hot August Nights is happening. I'm very excited about that. We are a community property state where we can include the spouse. Well, let's say, for example, both me and Reef are on title. Well, unfortunately, Reef won't marry me. So what you can do as a loan originator is you can run an inquiry for both me and him, see who gets better offers, because it's not always about credit score. It's not always about DTI. It's risk-based pricing that takes everything into consideration, so you can take a look there. If not, right, maybe you don't have permission for a soft credit pull for both, right? If maybe just the primary is like, hey, I just want to go through, that's fine. Just know every vesting owner will have to be on at the end as what we call an additional signer, right? They're going to acknowledge that lien. They're going to sign at the end for notary. It's a pretty simple process, and we can do split signings if needed, but just keep that in mind, right? It's going to be there, but for income, just spouses.
Correct. Yep. I know it's a little different. Our product is different. The process is different, but it is effective, especially once you know all the rules. You can start playing by them in an effective way, and you can start helping more folks out. We have someone asking, our competitor does offer an option to order a BPO even if the AVM generates, and oftentimes the BPO comes in higher and saves the deal.
Hey, guess what? We know. We've heard that feedback. We are working on it. So we've been on the fence about this. I think Tim has talked about this on previous webinars, right? Where we've seen that before, where it does the opposite, where it comes in lower, or there's situations where I've personally dealt with where either a loan officer or a borrower, I've seen both, where they're really fixed on the AVM, where that wasn't the limiting factor in what their offers generated. But that is something that we are looking into. We are looking into the ability, as of what, a couple weeks ago, Reef, something of that nature, we now offer loans up to $750,000. On loans above $400,000, we now require a manual appraisal. We had to build out an entire process for manual appraisal because again, it's all in the system, plus our third parties, how it's all going to be handled, so on and so forth. Well, now that's live. Now we have that system. So now what we're looking at is basically backporting that feature, not just for loans over $400,000, but by looking at it and saying, okay, well, if someone wants to contest the AVM, well, if they want to pay out of pocket for an appraisal, who am I to stop them? So there's no ETA on that. We're having discussions, right? It's a part of the feature rollout. So stay tuned to future webinars. I'm sure we'll show it off once it does go live and we'll talk all about it. But you're absolutely right. We've gotten this feedback when it comes to like AVMs and such. So we will be building out this enhancement more or less to just help the borrower and yourself, I would say, right, as a loan officer, but more for the borrower. So to save the deal, everyone's happy, life is good.
True. Just keep in mind, be careful what you wish for as well, right? Because what if or that full appraisal comes back lower than the AVM? Guess what? We're gonna have to take the BPO or the appraisal at that point, right?
Mhm.
So it is a little bit of a gamble, and it is gonna slow down the process. Keep in mind, like our goal, right, is speed, efficiency. We're trying to cut out the bulk, right, in the whole entire process. But yeah, if there is no deal, and that is an option to maybe provide a deal, that can make sense because you don't have any other options. But if you get a good AVM or you get an AVM that gives you offers, but then you want to see if you can contest that, it might not be always be the best path. So just keep that in mind. Of course, this is just all theoretical. It's not here yet, but if it does come, just keep that in the back of your mind as well. Lee asked a really good question about community property states. So I want to let you guys know a little bit about this, and I'll take this one. Community property states and or homestead. Okay, so a lot of the LOs I've spoke to that kind of get this confused, they're like, well, my state or my subject property is not in a community property state. How can I use spousal income? Well, is it a homestead state? They're like, oh yeah, it is homestead. Okay, yes, then you're good. It's not just community property. We allow homestead states as well. Now, when you factor in community property and you factor in homestead, you pretty much cover about 37 states. So that's the vast majority of the US. There's about 14 states that are not qualifying, and we count DC as one of these states. So that's why you get that 51 number. But the vast majority of the US will allow you to use spousal income, legal spousal income, because it is community property and or homestead. So keep that in mind. And if let's say the deposits are all going into the same bank account, just make sure that the primary applicant is an owner of that bank account that they're using, right? So ideally, you don't want people to commingle bank account information. You could run into some issues. Maybe the system flags that different deposits are coming in from different people. It does not like that. It's going to disqualify that bank account, and they might have to use a different income verification option like taxes, for example. So just something to take note of. Now, can you
Mhm.
show where we would order the appraisal? Anna's asking. So we don't have
Yes.
that option yet, quite.
Well, not yet, but I do want to show you one thing because that is a good call, right? So not yet can you order an appraisal, right? And that's really me saying, hey, we're looking at it, right? I'm not promising too much. But what I do want to show you here is again for loan amounts over $400,000. Number one, something I did not mention, we will cap the origination fee to 12,000. Keep that in mind, right? If you haven't seen that change, we're not going to charge them 32,000. That would be insane. The second thing here is if a manual appraisal is required on those higher loan amounts, it's going to show you in the loan breakdown. It's going to tell you the estimate. It will let you know there's an appraisal fee. And keep in mind, that is paid out of pocket. So what'll happen is during the borrower's application, after we pull hard credit, and they do most of it, we're going to stop them. And it's going to say, hey, we're ordering the appraisal now. Now, what's going to happen is they're going to receive an email from that third-party appraisal service with instructions for payment. and how the appraisal is going to go, right? And we'll get more information from that third party. The appraisal is going to be used for qualification, and that's a full appraisal. Just keep that in mind. So you'll see it on the inquiry. You can have a conversation with your borrower, and that's only on loans over $400,000. Anything below will go by the AVM, no cost to the borrower, pretty easy.
And I'll just touch on something as well about that 12K max because I get these questions too. That is not for every single partner. Okay, so some partners do not have a max on their OFI. It just depends on the setup and agreement that they are in. So it's all going to be based on your partnership and what your agreements are with your company and Figyre. So just keep that in mind. It's always good to pivot and ask folks internally about that, right? So you don't get confused if you see an OFI above 12K, but we are for the vast majority of our partners, we are trying to cap that OFI at 12K, so that's really nice. Just so you don't come back at us and say, "Hey, I'm seeing an OFI above 12K." That's all. Last question. I think we're running about on time. We are a client previously stated 63K of annual income when applied for the HELOC, and she was approved for 197K, yet she actually earns 53K. Should we rerun it? And since she's not providing the correct annual income.
No, that's my answer. To give you a detailed answer, what's going to happen there during income verification is it's going to keep running that automated underwriter, checking for requirements, including DTI, meaning a lot of people don't actually need to fully verify their stated income. It just depends on the offer they select, right? So if I state I have $200,000, but my DTI is fine, a lot of times I only have to verify like 100 something, maybe. And then what it'll do is it'll let me move on. So what's happening there, right? I always say more is better than less. And that's the reason I say that. So if the client stated 93K, right, and they only verified 53K, well, then to me, that 53K is just the amount that they needed to verify for the offer they selected, and they're good. So there's not going to be any issues there. Our system is constantly checking in the back end for those DTI calcs. So they're good. There's no issues there. It is working as perfectly as it is. So just have them continue and move on.
Great. We got one that's kind of squeezed in here from Scott. Love to have an easier way for the borrower to request a mobile notary in person. I have an older borrower that does not want to sign on his phone as he can't read the docs. He feels much more comfortable to do this in person. I can get this escalated or comfortable to do this in person, and I can get this escalated for him. And that is a path. You can do that if we're having issues with getting e-notary to work. A lot of times we'll offer an in-person wet signature with a mobile notary option, as long as we can service that area, depending on where they are, right, where they want to schedule that. But that is something you can do. Email us at salessuccess@figyre.com, and we'll give you your point of contacts of where you can escalate that to. Currently, it's not going to be an integrated option where you're at the notary screen and you have a way of saying, I want to do an in-person signature. There's a cost associated with that. So in-person signatures, obviously we're using a third-party vendor. There's a charge. We pass that charge off to the borrower. A lot of times when it's e-closing, that's what we're going to default to because it's free. We do it in-house and we don't charge for that. So yeah, just shoot us an email and we'll get you to the right folks.
And I do want to throw in here really quickly too. Same thing, split signings. If you need a translator for notary, anything of that nature, contact our customer operations team. They're fantastic. They can help out, but they need to know ahead of time, right? They need to know before like notary's going to schedule. So just some things to keep in mind.
Yep, just shoot us an email and we'll get you to the right place. A lot of times there are ways you can escalate that and we'll get you to the right people. It's usually our ops center and the leadership team there, and they'll try to help you guys out and kind of provide that solution.
All right, I'm going to end this. Well, there is one last question. It says, how can a notary become a part of your notary network? We have in-house notaries for e-notary, and then we use a third party called Service Link. So if you ever want to sign up, I would look at Service Link. Very specifically here, folks, I'm going to be sending out an email. It's going to have a bunch of resources that I just, talked about earlier, demo videos, documents. We're going to have a marketing toolkit in there for this product. I'm going to send you links to our YouTube, right? You can schedule time with us. You can email us. I'm going to send you all sorts of information. So look forward to that. This recording will go up on YouTube once I get it processed and edited. And with that, honestly, you all have a fantastic week. I have a bunch of classic cars to go look at and some great cool drinks to go drink. So have a fantastic one. Reef, You have a good one as well, my friend. I probably won't see you in a little bit, I think.
That's true. That's true. I'm going on vacation next week, so I'm pretty excited about that. And real quick, I know we're about to hop off. Anthony's asking a couple questions. I believe the recap, Alex, you send includes the discussions in the chat bot and the Q&A stuff. I believe they'll have access to that when they get that. Correct me if I'm wrong. And then in general, about income verification, some people are uncomfortable with linking accounts. Totally understood. That's why we also have the option to provide their most recent pay stub if they're W-2 folks. And if they have fixed income, they can provide their award letters. And we can do a manual review of that. But again, some people just might not want to do an electronic process at all. Then this is probably not the best option for them, and I would pivot them accordingly. So just keep that.
And Anthony, if you ever have questions, you can email me personally if you want to. I'm always happy to help you. All right, folks, I gotta jump here to another thing. You all have a fantastic day. Enjoy your week, and we will see you in 2 weeks for our next session. We're gonna have some special guests. Tim's gonna be back on. It's gonna be a fantastic session. So register for that. Join us again. And with that, see ya.
Bye, guys.